Good evening, my name's Alex Campbell and you're watching the 14th episode of Dissecting Who. On this episode I'll be dissecting the 1975 classic, The Terror of the Zygons.
You know, Sarah, I've got a nasty feeling that there's a herd of jabberwocks and slithy toads just waiting to leap out on us.
So the synopsis of this episode is that the Zygons have infiltrated Earth and are replacing human beings. They have turned the Loch Ness Monster into a cyborg, and they're going to use this Loch Ness Monster cyborg hybrid to control and take over Earth somehow.
So now we must make this planet ours.
But why? I mean, why must you
All
take...
resistance will be crushed. We shall change the destiny of Earth.
Now that is a really cool premise, but the narrative doesn't exactly follow line with that. The narrative is told from the perspective of the Doctor and Sarah and Harry and the Brigadier, and tells the story of them trying to figure out where the Zygons are, who they are, and what they're doing.
Doctor, the destruction of these rigs is a complete mystery. Do you want more men to die?
No.
The elements of that synopsis only really come into play in the 4th episode, but it is a really cool idea, even if it is a little bit underutilized. This serial opens up with a miniature of an oil rig getting destroyed, and I love this miniature. It has so much personality and character. And you can tell it's a model, but it's still convincing, and it breathes life and character and love. The serial also features a lot of shots of the Zygons' main spaceship, which is a miniature. There's even a cool forced perspective shot with the model close to the lens and the main actors in the background to give the impression that they're small and this spaceship is to scale, even though it's probably only about this big. And it's so cute. I wish more shows used models nowadays instead of CGI. Lifeless CGI.
There be some Bombat Clankins coming this way.
Yeah, what? Bombat Clankins?
Right there.
Where?
There. No.
Wait.
So as you might have already guessed, this serial is set in Scotland. And they tell the audience that, but then feel the need to beat the idea over their head. In the first couple of shots, we see the Doctor wearing a tartan scarf and a stereotypical Scottish hat. After that, the first interior shot has bagpipes blasting, and they feel the need to say Angus and Haggis in the first 10 minutes, because you know, they say it's in Scotland, but the audience won't believe it's Scotland unless they blast the bagpipes.
If this keeps up, pretty soon there won't be a man left willing to work out there. Do we have to put up with this hullabaloo?
I'm afraid we've rather imposed ourselves on the landlord. If he wants to play his pipes, there's not much I can do about it.
There's also a cool unintentional meta moment where the Brigadier goes to interrogate a person working in this mining industry, and he has a model of one of the oil rigs on his desk.
You know, these things always remind me of three-legged spiders in Wellington boots.
But this model is obviously one of the models they used for the show, for the opening sequence. So it's this weird meta moment where it's like a model within the show, but then it's actually also a model within the production that they used on the show. So of course the innkeeper who is running the premise where the Doctor and the rest of the crew are staying is named Angus, and the actor who is playing him's name is also Angus. So maybe all the stereotypical Scottish things are true. But you'd expect this innkeeper's voice to be like, I am Angus, and I'm the Scottish innkeeper who runs this premise. But it's not. I don't know whether he had a lisp or he was gay, but yeah, it caught me a little bit off surprise.
That's right. I'm Angus Ferguson MacRanald. My family's been in these parts for generations.
Really?
Noticeably to a lot of modern audiences, this serial also has a lot of political themes, But of course, the political realm is far different than it was in 1975, so you don't really pick up on it unless you're a historian. Basically, at the time, England set up a bunch of oil rigs in the North Sea and were taking oil out of Scottish seas and not giving any of the revenue back to the Scottish people. So it was a mass political issue of the time. And there's elements of that sprinkled all through this serial. I like political elements in shows, and they can work very well to send a message or give you an idea of where the writer stands on a particular issue.
My opponent is a liar and he cannot be trusted.
So the Zygons costume in this serial is very good considering this era of Doctor Who. It's very immersive, and in low light it looks great and almost as good as the new serial.
We have converted the skeleton into an armored cyborg of devastating power. Nothing could stand against us. Nothing!
There are a few shots of it in highlight where it can come under some scrutiny. In particular, a shot where one gets shot and he falls down, and there's a clear division between the top half of the suit and the bottom half, and it looks like a shirt and pants.
The skeleton will destroy you all.
But other than that, the Zygon costumes look really good. And they also do a great alien voice for them. I don't like it in Doctor Who when we have aliens in heavy prosthetics and then they just leave the unaltered, heavy English Shakespearean accent over the top. It looks weird.
You have the philosophy of a cringing mouse, Tarum.
And you're a gambler with a mad thirst for power.
So probably the most compelling element of this serial is the great atmosphere and the creepy tone. The director does a great job to let shots linger and have this really dark atmosphere over the top of the whole feel of the show. There are scenes where the shots linger and the music swells in an odd minor key and the atmosphere is just creepy and off-putting and has you on edge and has that sense of tension. Check out this hypnotism scene. It's obscure and off and weird.
Do not breathe. You feel no pain. No pain. You feel nothing.
There's also a lot of story elements that contribute to this feel. The Zygons are watching the humans and they're replacing them and they don't know who's human and who's Zygon, and it does a great job at just capturing this whole off-putting tone. So in this serial we really start to see Philip Hinchcliffe's horror influences start to creep into the narrative. There is a great scene with Harry who's been replaced by a Zygon, and he's cornered Sarah in a barn and is coming at her with a pitchfork. This scene is very well shot and it just captures the feel of horror immensely great with the tone and the music and especially the acting. The actor who plays Harry, Ian Marter, does a great job of being a convincing and threatening enemy. Product placement. This serial was directed by Douglas Camfield, who does a really good job at elevating this serial to a new level of quality in comparison to other serials in this era. Douglas started off his career at the BBC directing some early Doctor Who episodes, then moved on to feature films and more upscale productions. And coming back from that career, he comes back to Doctor Who and you can definitely see that he has an escalated quality which he brings to the show. He knows how to let a scene breathe and how to frame a shot, and it really just breathes to me a guy who knows what he's doing and knows how to capture an atmosphere on film. Dougie clashed with the cast and crew a little bit though, because you have the normal cast and crew who film every week for 6 months of the year, and this guy from these higher, bigger productions coming in and trying to get stuff shot better to a better quality. And Doctor Who had a very low budget, so the schedule was very tight a lot of the times. And there are a few moments where he wanted to reframe a shot and reset the lighting and do another take just to get a better version, and people were like, we don't have the time, we probably can't do this. So there was a bit of tension and clashing there, but I didn't pick up on that at all from watching this show. It didn't seem like it had a troubled production. It seemed like the director knew exactly what he wanted and how to capture it.
When the mist comes down, it's like the steam for a witch's cauldron. Nobody from these parts will cross the moor after dark.
So everything I've said up until this point about the serial has basically been a positive. But the Loch Ness Monster in this serial is filmed with stop motion animation. And the way that this technique is achieved is through getting a model, moving it a slight amount and taking a photo. And then you play back all the photos, and if you have 24 frames per second to the adequate amount of movement, it looks realistic. But the animators just didn't have the time to realize this monster properly, and it's very jarring and breaks the immersion immensely well. Normally I think the shitty effects on Doctor Who are humorous and quaint and I get a kick out of them, but because the first parts of this serial captured such a creepy, off-putting tone so well, it disappoints me that this element of the serial didn't work, because if it had of, the serial would be elevated to a new level, and it does kind of bring it down a bit. Look at him go! Look at the shitty Loch Ness Monster swim up the Thames and attack London.
It's huge! Where's the signal device?
Just chewing it.
So once the conflict has been resolved, the Doctor and Sarah go to leave when Harry tells them that he's not going to be going with them and he's going to be staying with the unit. Harry's character was introduced into this show because they didn't know whether the new actor to be playing the Doctor would be an elderly man or not, and if he was, they needed someone young to do all the action scenes. Once Tom Baker was cast and they knew that he was a younger man who was more than able to do all these action scenes himself, they didn't need Harry. And it's a shame, even though
Harry Sullivan is an imbecile!
I really like his character and the actor does a good job of portraying that type of gentleman. So it's sad to see Harry go, but his character didn't really fit with the type of serial they were doing. In conclusion, this is a really well realized and excellently executed serial. The one element that falls flat is the Loch Ness Monster, unfortunately, but other than that, Dougie did a great job to capture the feel of this weird Scottish town with these people disappearing and the mystery.
Hey, you've hurt yourself.
It's not important.
Let me see.
Thank you for watching, and it'd really help out if you could like, subscribe, and in the comments tell me how I got all the facts wrong and how my opinion is null and void. Thank you, and good night.
Oh.